This is world history. In case you forgot what class you were in, this is chapter 20, The Great War. The lamps are going out. Just a heads up for you guys, you should have finished everything for chapter 19. You should have taken the chapter 19 test. And don't forget, if you were planning on doing the bonus assignment, it is due with your week 3 packets. So please, this is your one chance that I'm reminding you to get it done if you are planning on doing it. You don't have to, but I highly recommend it. We're starting a new chapter today. This will be the last video for week 3 as well. So let's get started. By the turn of the 20th century, international cooperation had given way to nationalism. European countries expanded their empires, developed new weapons, and entered complex alliances. In 1914, the alliances drew all of Europe into the costliest war in history up to that point, known as World War I. We're on page 437 in your books. What I want you to do, please, is to read the first paragraph on page 437 to yourself. Once you have finished, please unpause the video and we'll resume. All right, Roman numeral 1, promise and peril. Letter A, reasons for hope. Understand, people weren't expecting World War I to happen. People just don't march straight into it thinking that this will be a terrible, horrible war. There would have been attempts to avoid it. Well, there was actually reasons for hope at the turn of the 20th century. Winston Churchill described the 19th century as a time when the accumulation of health and wealth had been practically unchecked. Industrialism had brought about a higher standard of living for more people than ever before. Science was eradicating disease. Efforts at peace and international cooperation increased as the century continued. And because of this, most people were optimistic about the future. Number 1, international cooperation. It's during this time that the Red Cross was formed to help those suffering from natural disaster or war. International cooperation increased as communication improved. The Pan-American Union was established to promote trade and peace in the Western Hemisphere. And in 1896, in a symbolic gesture of cooperation, a number of countries organized a revival of the Greek Olympic Games to be held every 4 years. The very first Olympic Games was held in, yeah, you guessed it, Athens, Greece. Of course, you guys haven't heard yet on the news the Summer Olympics of 2020, which had been planned for being hosted in Tokyo, Japan, due to the coronavirus, has been delayed at least until next year. So hopefully they'll be able to get the Olympics back up and going again. Number 2, another reason for hope was international efforts at peace. With the breakdown of the Concert of Europe, individuals and organizations will be promoting peace. Alfred Nobel, who lived from 1833 to 1896, a couple things you need to know about him. First of all, he invented dynamite. He didn't plan on dynamite being used for destructive, deadly purposes. He thought it would be good for mining and so on. But he realized the possible danger of dynamite. And so he also established, the second thing you need to know about him, established the Nobel Peace Prize. He had made his wealth with dynamite to use in mining, but he feared his new invention would be used as a weapon in warfare. Setting aside some of his wealth, he established the Nobel Peace Prize to honor men and women whose accomplishments furthered the cause of peace. Another individual was a man by the name of Andrew Carnegie. He lived from 1835 to 1919. 2 things about him you need to know. He was an American steel manufacturer. And second of all, he helped build the Peace Palace in the Netherlands. The picture you see on your right is the Peace Palace. People hoped that the Peace Palace would be a place where international disputes could be settled through peaceful means. Ironically, the Peace Palace was finished just as World War I began. While there were many reasons for hope, there are also many reasons for fear. Neither scientific progress nor attempts at international cooperation could prevent suspicion and hatred from forming in Europe. James 4:1 says, "From whence come wars and fightings among you? Come they not hence, even of your lusts, that war in your members? War comes from pride, fear, and greed. All of these are very human and very sinful attributes." Number one reason for fear was the extreme nationalism that was going on in Europe. While patriotism is a good thing, Europeans took patriotism too far. In short, countries considered other nations and races inferior to their own superiority. Many nations desired war to prove their superiority over other nations. In fact, as one German put it, war is not only a necessary element in the life of a people, but also an indispensable factor in culture. Indeed, the highest expression of the strength and life of a truly cultured people. Warfare proves how cultured and civilized a people group is? Never heard that one before. Well, that's what people were thinking at this time. Number 2, militarism. Many European countries during this time increased their military might far beyond what was necessary for a strong national defense. A large standing army created national glory and was a symbol of power. Many citizens glorified war, believing that war was the noblest task in which any nation could engage. The military often dominated the government. When disputes broke out among nations, it became very easy for a government to immediately resort to the use of force. These militaristic attitudes in Europe helped foster the full-scale war that lay ahead. People saw war only in terms of glory, of greatness, what they could get out of this war. They did not consider the cost of life, the bloodshed, and the destruction that would befall all the countries involved. Number 3, imperialism. Imperialism, we've already talked about all last chapter, was a competition for colonies. Countries like Italy and Germany were jealous of Britain's large colonial empire, and they desired their own. Colonies increased a nation's wealth. Disputes broke out between countries over claiming certain territories, but peaceful solutions were met, though both sides usually didn't like the results. This added to the jealous hate and suspicion in Europe. This map that I have on the screen here for you shows you the European countries, including the U.S., and Japan, that existed, and the colonies that they had. You can see, of course, Britain, probably the largest, the best example of an imperialistic country owning everything that you see in the green. You can see the U.S. Over there. Of course, they are in the light gray color, owning Alaska as well as the Philippines. The French in kind of a blue color. You can see owning most of North Africa, Madagascar, Indochina. Japan in the dark blue, controlling Korea. Not to be confused, Denmark controlling Iceland and Greenland over there. And then there are many, many other countries involved in imperialism. That's as of 1900 on that map. And then lastly, number 4, we see rival alliances. Nations will form alliances, usually secret alliances, where allies promise to protect each other in case one of them is ever attacked. these rival alliances would drag most of Europe into war. On page 439, it shows you a map of the rival alliances in Europe at this time. That's all the notes that we're going to cover for today. Again, reminder, please make sure that you have all of your activities homeworks, as well as your Chapter 19 test. If you did the bonus assignment, make sure you have that done as well. Hope you all have a good rest of the day. Enjoy your weekend. Be good, do good. Bye.